Yes. I don't think you want that. But, that's when we think about that, a church is a body, and so many times people think that, they are not needed. And you have a gift, you're part of the body, so it would be an incredible privilege for you to join what we call our dream team. When you get here in the morning, we were just joking, we're not doing everything. We have a dream team that is waiting to greet you as you walk into the doors. We have a coffee team, people that make the special coffees. Then people that work behind the desk. There are so many areas, and the kids right now downstairs and down this passage or this hallway. If you want to get involved, please sign up. There is definitely an area for you to sign up, and that's how the body gets together. That's how we function. Every single person has a function, and we want to encourage you not only to join a group, but also to sign up how you can serve. But once you start serving, you'll see that God blesses you so much. So this is also my opportunity to welcome everyone that is tuning on online, wherever you're watching from. It's so good that you are spending time with us. And if you ever have the opportunity to be in Anchorage, please come visit us in person. While you're following us and watching the sermon online, if you've been growing by following us, we want to ask you to please do one thing and subscribe. That is just one way, like we here at Echo say, let's echo the gospel. If you do that, it helps others to also see the message. So please do that for us and welcome. Let's just give a hand, also welcome those that are tuning in online. Now I want to start with this. A wife asked her husband to fix a leaky sink, and he ignores her. 5 years later, the house floods, and he looks at her and says, "See, I told you I would get to it eventually." Now, this morning we're going to talk about Jonah, and it's going to be a two-part series that we're going to continue next week too with Jonah, and it's really just about that hearing and not doing. And have you ever felt or known that there's something you know that God wants you to do, but you've decided, I'm going to do anything but that. I'll do anything but that. And when we look at the story of Jonah, that's exactly what we're going to discuss and see that Jonah, it's a story, if you're not familiar, it's the story about a fish. We don't know if it was a whale, but it's a large fish. And it's the story is not primarily just about the fish, but it's also about a man that heard God clearly and ran deliberately. So when we come and we think about God speaks, this is the moment that God speaks to Jonah. And it says in Jonah 1, verse 1 to 2, God comes and he says, "Arise and go to Nineveh." That's a clear assignment that God gives to Jonah. It says, get up and go. It's just like when you have when your work says you have a work assignment in the lower 48, or you have a meeting in Seward. So whatever it is, you are going to make sure I have to drive to the airport for my plane boards this time, and then I have to be on the plane so that I can fly maybe to Colorado, wherever it is, so that I can go. Or maybe get in the car this time so that I can drive to Seward, because that's the instruction. That's the assignment that God gave Jonah. Arise and go to Nineveh. And there are certain countries and towns all over the world that you avoid. People will tell you, if you're traveling there, if you're going to California, don't go there. If you're going to Florida, don't go there. If you're traveling internationally, I would advise you not to go to, if you're going to this country, don't go to that city. Because there's civil war, or there's unrest, or whatever. There are certain places that you just avoid. Nineveh was one of those places. And the background of Nineveh is they perfected the art. It wasn't that crime was bad necessarily, but the rulers, they perfected the art to flay people. That means they perfected the art to skin you alive. If you did something in the city that they did not like, or you were a rebel or whatever, they skinned you alive, and they would take your skin and they would nail it against the walls around the city, even in the entrance as new people are coming in to visit. That was a clear sign that if you come here and you want to do something that we don't like, this is what's going to happen. So God gives us instruction that go to Nineveh, not as just I want you to go and have a holiday or have a vacation. No, he gives the next instructions, very clear instructions. He says, and announce my judgment against it. So the interesting thing that we read here is that Jonah didn't misunderstand God. Like, why do you want me to go? He clearly knew what God was saying, what he was asking. He just decided that I don't like what you're asking me. You know, it's those of you who have children, if you ask them, please clean your room. It's not that they're misunderstanding you. They hear what you're asking them. They just don't like the instruction that you're giving them right now. Like, I want you to clean this mess up. Can you do this? Yes, I will. Maybe it's going to take a day or two, but so they're not misunderstanding. Same with Jonah. He didn't misunderstand what God was saying to him. It's just, I'm not liking what you're telling me to do. And it reminds me of a pastor he's in South Carolina, and he absolutely loves churches, and he's got a kingdom mindset. You know, if there are more churches, that's incredible. He loves it because then he knows more people are being reached. So a new church opened down the street from where his church is, and he was very excited. You know, he knows the challenges of a church that is starting for the first time, and he was praying for the pastor. And during his prayer time, he clearly sensed God saying, I want you to send your worship leader to that church. Keep on paying him. And it was like, I don't think I heard that correctly. You know, God, I'm praying for them. I want them to be successful. But I don't think I heard that. I didn't like that part. Like, wait, you want me to do what? What about our worship? And we could keep on paying the worship leader, but what if people start liking their worship more and they go, oh, okay, so here's... And he got to a place where, you know what, I'm just going to do what you want me to do. So sometimes we've got to move from a place where we're waiting for more revelation, and we just got to be obedient to what God has already said. God has told you and gave you clear instructions to do something, and sometimes we're just waiting, you know, give me a sign. And then a clear sign comes. Okay, but give me another sign. Give me another sign. Give me, like Gideon. I didn't like this sign. If you can do it like this. If you can give me 5 more signs. No, be obedient. God may be calling you to forgive someone. Maybe he's been calling you to reconcile with someone. You need to pick up the phone and reconcile with someone. Maybe he's been calling you to serve. We just had the video of the Dream Team joining the Dream Team. Maybe he's been calling you to bless someone with food or with clothing, or you've got extra things, and God is just calling you, I want you to do this. Do this. Maybe He's been calling you to invite someone to church, a neighbor or a friend. And I've said it often that this is what the stats say, that if I invite someone to come to church, 6% of them will actually come. But if you invite someone to church, it jumps to 75 to 80%. Why? Because now they know, I know someone at church. I can maybe sit with them. But if I invite them, they think, well, the pastor's going to be on the stage, so I'm going to sit alone. And what if he wants to preach about me? Now, I'll never do that. I'll never do that. So I want you to feel okay. But the success is there. The stats prove it, that if you invite someone, the chance of them coming is very big. And maybe God has been calling you to do that, just to invite someone that is your neighbor or a work colleague, and let's do that. Maybe God has been calling you to leave something behind. You know, I mentioned about freedom. There are certain things that we keep on dragging with us. Maybe you need to get to a place that, okay, I need to deal with this so that I can leave this behind. Maybe God has been calling you to start something or to step into ministry, to start a group. Not only just join a group, but to start a group. Like, you know what? I've got a house. We've got a nice living room. And I want to start this. God has been speaking to me about this for a long time. Let's do it. What about a missions trip? Let's do this. Maybe God has been calling you to share the love of Jesus with someone. Or maybe God has been calling you to stop something that you know is wrong. Like, stop lying. You've been lying about this for so long. So I want you to stop. Stop cheating. Stop doing these things. Instead of just waiting for a sign, let's get to a place where we can just be obedient to the instruction that God has already given us. And then we move to where Jonah decides to run. But here's the thing, is when we run, we can run. Everyone can run, but we cannot hide. In Jonah 1 verse 3, it says, Jonah rose to flee to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. And Jonah goes down to Joppa, he goes down into the ship, and then he goes down into the depths of the ocean. And this, as we read it, the language is so powerful. Because every step that Jonah takes away from God is a step downward. And someone once said that if you feel far from God, guess who moved? You see, that's what we do. The prodigal son, he said, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go into the world. And he went, and he quickly discovered that, it was so much better in my father's house. And he returned. Adam and Eve, when we read Genesis, as soon as they sinned, God was searching for them and they were hiding. It's the natural thing that we do. We try and run away, we try and hide, and Jonah thinks that I can escape God. It's like in South Africa, we have the ostrich, and the ostrich tries to hide by just hiding his head in a hole. And the rest of his body is out. Like, you can't see him because he can't see you. And that's how we sometimes think, that I'm just going to try and run away from God and that's it. And I'm going to be safe. But we see in Psalm 139 from verse 7 to 9, God quickly reminds us through David. He says, where shall I go from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost part of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me. We can try and run, but we cannot outrun God. God is everywhere. Every single where we go, God is there. He's omnipresent. And then we learn as we continue reading that Your disobedience rarely affects only you. Your disobedience rarely affects only you. In Jonah 1, from 4 to 16, when you read, and you're welcome to read that at home too. But just in short, what happens in these couple verses is Jonah gets on the boat, and while he's on the boat and they are sailing away, God sends a storm, and suddenly everyone on this boat or this ship is affected by Jonah's disobedience. I mean, the sailors are terrified. They are panicking. They're throwing their possessions overboard because they don't want to sink. And their lives are at risk. They say in verse 14, they're crying out to God. They're saying, don't make us die for this man's sin, and don't hold us responsible for his death. And here's something that we need to understand. Private disobedience creates public consequences. Private disobedience creates public consequences. If you are cheating in your marriage, it can be in private, but eventually it gets to a place where someone finds out. And then a lot of, if you have children, they are affected. It's a partner that is affected. Children are affected. It's extended family and friends are affected. If you think about a church, and we've heard it so many times, if there is a leader in a church that failed morally, and it was done in private, and it failed morally, all of a sudden, the whole church is affected. The whole church is affected. People are like, oh my goodness, I don't want to go to that church anymore because the leader failed us. There are so many things that if we continue to be disobedient in private things, the consequences can be public. But I also want to say that more people can be affected. And this is what we see with Jonah as he tries to run, that it's not only him that experiences the storm, it's the whole crew. They're on the same ship, they experience the same storm, and you might think it's my life, it's my decision. Yes, but Scripture repeatedly shows us that when we make certain decisions, it affects people around us. And then we get to the place where God pursues Jonah. And I love that about God. The same way in Genesis, even though Adam and Eve sinned and they ran away and they were hiding, God pursued them. So God, He was looking for them and they were hiding. God continues to pursue Jonah. Even though he's trying to run away, you cannot outrun God. He just continues to seek Jonah. And he doesn't abandon Jonah. He sends the fish. And the fish isn't God's punishment, but it's God's rescue. I'm coming to rescue. He thought, okay, this is the end. I'm in the belly of the fish. This is the end. But it was actually God's mercy. And sometimes you might think that what you're going through is God's punishment or this is the end, but it's actually God is using it also to bring you back. And I want to say that Scripture also says that no bad thing comes from God, but God can use it. God can clearly use it to bring you back. And while he is in the belly of the fish, he starts praying. And I find it so amusing because that is a lot of times that is how we do it. When our back is against the wall and we have nowhere to turn or to run, then we start praying. And he's in the belly of the fish. There's nowhere to go. and he is just praying. And it's this incredible moment where God is calling him back. I have an incredible plan for you. I want to use you. I want to bless you. The question is, where are you running from? If God has been calling you to do something, what are you running from? What is your Nineveh? You hear it clearly. I want you to do this. You've been hearing it for a long time. I want you to do this. I want you to call this person. I want you to forgive this person. I want you to do this. What is your Nineveh that you've just been running away from the whole time because God is calling you? And before we can ask God for the next instruction, God, what do you want me to do? Let us be obedient to the first instruction that he gave you. Sometimes we just have to say, okay, God, I'm taking the first step of obedience. I'm going to do that. Let's close our eyes. As you're sitting here in